My wife likes to mute me too, so it's okay.
There we go. Now we should be good. We should be good now. People should be able to hear us. Perfect. Okay, so all right, Rob, how are you?
I'm good. Your hands aren't connected to your body. It's like they're floating.
Oh, they're like backwards. Here we go. There we go. There's my hands. Okay, there's the, where is it?
Are those
like
really your hands?
Lost. There we go. Here we go.
Are those really your hands doing that? I don't even have like one of those like Oculus Rifty kind of things. So I've actually never been in a VR thing before.
You've never been in a VR headset?
I haven't. Maybe I should get one, huh?
Yeah, no, you should get one. I love VR headsets. They're probably my favorite things ever.
All right. Well, I'll have to get some recommendations on which way to go with that stuff.
Would you want recommendations now, or do you want an extensive paragraph and list later?
Tell me what I should get that's not going to cost me $1 zillion.
$1 zillion. Something that wouldn't cost you $1 zillion could literally be anything.
Well, what's a good headset?
The Oculus is probably the most convenient one right now. They're coming out with a brand new one, so that's a possibility.
And what do those run? Are those like something? Do I need a
like
Tesla?
$400. A decent
$400.
One. It's going to run you like $400.
Is that what you run? The Oculus Rifts or whatever they are?
So there's the Oculus. I have the Quest on right now. That's the one that I'm wearing. The Go is discontinued. That one's no good no more. The Quest is kind of like the standard one. The Rift would be the higher version class one. It has, more processing power, better visuals. That one I think runs up to like $500, maybe up to $600, depending if you get like the bigger gigabyte one for more games and storage. But I want to say that's like the optimal one that's on the market right now. There's others like the HTC Vive, and there's like Windows Mixed Reality and a few other headsets. But out of all of them, this one probably has the most apps you can use, and you can play with it the most, in my opinion.
Can I just plug these in and like into an Xbox, or do they have to work with a certain system to work?
So as long as you have a PC, if you're going to run the Oculus headset, it runs by itself. It doesn't need to be plugged into a PC, which is probably why it's one of the better headsets to use. You just need to, have it charged and Wi-Fi. A lot of other VR headsets need to have a strong PC in order for it to run. This one doesn't. So I look at that for that reason. There's others that you can get attachments that you can have it like, kind of wireless, quote unquote, away from your PC, but not, you still need a PC. This is like the only one that you don't need a PC for. So if you want something that you can use on the go, this is like the best one.
Gotcha. Well, all right. So I'll have to try it out. Maybe the next time I'm down in Miami, then you can, show me what to do.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely link up. I'll show you some headsets. I love VR. I actually started doing like working out and stuff in VR. So there's a lot to do in VR, but definitely something you should look into. But okay, let's talk about, you wanted to talk about the getting to the last mile of crypto adoption here. And there's a lot that comes with that. And I know you're very skilled about, different cryptocurrencies and, different topics in the space. So tell me a little bit about this. So what do you think we need to cross this last mile?
I think you need to line up the right incentives, and you need to have a strategy to put those incentives into the hands of the people that makes the most sense for, in other words, which people actually have a problem that crypto solves. And I know a lot of the people that are hardcore crypto people, and trust me, I'm a hardcore crypto person too, but for most people in the West, the United States, Europe, places like that, crypto doesn't actually solve a problem for anybody. It actually creates more problems. And I think this is a pretty critical thing. Like, grandma doesn't care about things like decentralization. And if your idea of like marketing is like hassling like an Uber driver or like a Starbucks barista, you're just going to piss people off and you're going to annoy people. And I see so many people doing those exact things, and it's really a waste of time, because for those people, crypto is not solving a problem, and you're giving them more problems, learning curve, stress, fees, all these different things. So to me, if you're going to want to get close that last mile of crypto adoption, what you need to do is you need to find out who out there as a group has a problem that crypto does solve. And I say people that have a recognize, and I do mean that, recognize, meaning that the people already know they have a problem with payments or something that blockchain might solve. And I think you need to start with those people. And then you need to figure out how to incentivize them and reach them and explain to them and teach them, that group, how crypto will solve their problem. And I think that is how you close that last mile.
Okay, so something interesting that I guess I've been hearing lately is changing terminology to, I guess, the way we call, for us, cryptocurrency. Do you think that's also an appropriate approach? Stop using these big words like cryptocurrency, blockchain, etc., and maybe start using words like social money or databases or things that people are more familiar with. Do you agree with that concept? Because I've heard that a lot.
Well, I would say this. One, if you're talking about you have to speak to people in a way they think is comfortable and they understand. So there's a saying in business, and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not a developer, right? So I look at things maybe a little different than a lot of developers in this space do. But, they say, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? And this is a problem a lot of people have, is they want to sell something in a way that they want to be sold. And this is really common among really, really smart people. But the problem is that's not how most people want to be sold.
Right.
And so I think that's critical. So for instance, I'll just use a story on how I teach. So we're focused on, doing sales and marketing of crypto to a specific industry. And when I talk to those people, I don't really use the word decentralization. So for the most part, if you say you're a decentralized organization or a decentralized project, that has no meaning to most people. So what I say when that topic comes up, I'll say, well, we're kind of like a cross between a nonprofit and a co-op. Bing. The people, that makes sense to people. If you say you're more like a nonprofit, you got to remember, decentralized projects still have people involved that are guiding things or developing things. But essentially, that's what we are. We're a nonprofit. I mean, that's the best thing I can liken it to, that most people already have a grasp on. And so if you take that kind of model and you say, okay, what are people already used to and accustomed to, and how can you explain these things in terms they already understand? So I can tell you, also, this is sales kind of stuff. And in the sales, if you talk to salespeople, the things that I say make complete sense. If you talk to developers, they don't know what they're talking about and they get mad. But no one cares about decentralization in the United States. Not now. They don't. It doesn't matter to them, because the fact is if you look at most people right now in the United States, they're very happy with their payment systems. Right? Their Visa works, their debit card works, it works seamlessly. They don't understand how things are settled through the SWIFT system with the current, technology and payments. They don't care about that. And those are all centralized solutions. They don't care about it because, one, they don't even see it as a problem. They don't even understand how it works, let alone see decentralization as a problem. And then scarcity. I hear a lot of people talk about, the benefit of, Bitcoin or some of these other crypto projects is it's scarce. Well, one, I don't think it's scarce, and scarcity does not by itself mean that something's valuable. And I think there's a disconnect with a lot of people that get into this concept. If you think about it, there's lots of things there's only one of them, but it doesn't have any value. So if my kid makes a little piece of crappy art that goes onto, their refrigerator, there's only one of those. It's scarce. It doesn't mean it's valuable, right? It's valuable to me. It's got sentimental value, but that doesn't mean that it's a marketable thing because of that alone. And if you look at it, most people don't see inflation as a problem. They're not seeing that yet. In fact, even with all the money printing right now, they're holding inflation down pretty well so far. And I think there's some reasons for that. on why it hasn't gone crazy yet in the United States with all the money they're printing because of the COVID pandemic and things like that. So I think that when, people, especially developers that are really passionate about these things, they're really passionate about something that most people have no clue about. And then they're hammering on these issues. Well, it's only got this many, only this many. People are like, I don't care. My Visa works. Well, it's scarce, and there's only gonna be 21 million, but my debit card works fine. I don't care. And this is expensive and slow, and I'm not going to wait 10 minutes in line or 20 minutes in line for something to process. So I think to close that last mile adoption, you need to come down to, you got to come and get on the same level as normal people. Now, and I think a lot of us in crypto, we're not normal people, right? We don't hang out with normal people. We don't think about things in the normal way that most people do. But to close that last mile of crypto adoption, you actually have to understand how the masses think. And unfortunately, especially developer-led projects don't understand that. They're not good at that. They hate that. How many developers do you know, right? You probably know a lot, I would guess, right? People that are into tech. How many of those developers? Well, how many of those developers, one, like sales, marketing, and business development?
Not much. No, they don't care about that kind of stuff. They're not sales guys, they care about the back end. And it's kind of like opposite for consumers. They care about, prices, and they care about how things are marketed to them, and they care if things look appealing. Developers, they don't care about those kind of things, they care about if, UX, UI interfaces, whether it makes sense to them or not, whether it's useful or not, whether it's safe or not. But that doesn't help the consumer. I agree with you. That's something that doesn't help us, or it doesn't help people who are not, more technical, understand this and why it's important. And you made a point earlier, people in the US, they don't care. And it's true, they don't care. This is merely a trading and investing mechanism. It's not something that they would use particularly to replace the US dollar. A lot of them don't know how finances work. So, there's a lot of implications, I feel like, when it comes to actually trading or even changing our monetary system. Even the digital dollar that the government, had talked about not too long ago seems, strange to a lot of Americans. Like, they couldn't imagine it. They couldn't fathom it. It's strange,
Well, and this is what I would say. I would even contend, you even say that developers like the interface. I would contend that most developers don't even care about that, because if you look at what they think, you're talking about people that
think they care if it works, right? If it works, it's fine, right? They care if it works.
So I will tell you this: if your developer really is like hardcore and they're only on their, Linux command line, that's the last guy you want telling you how to get mass adoption. Right. Because they think that's, you know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, I got Ubuntu on my other laptop right here too, so I kind of walk on both sides of this, right? I'm not a developer, but I can get around a command line CLI stuff. And so I have to be able to, but the fact is, if your mind is CLI and the rest of the planet is GUI, okay, you're not the guy to try to market that technology. You're missing something. So, look how many people that are like in the crypto space that hate Robinhood, right? And but here's why that's so effective. You know why it's so effective? Because it's freaking easy. Okay, it's easy to get on board. It's easy to buy stocks right in the app. It's a no-brainer. Why do people like Venmo? Because it's a no-brainer. You don't have to go through, some kind of documentation and README and go through toxic people on social media to try to sort out how to use Venmo. It's almost completely intuitive. And so until crypto gets to that level and is marketed well, and you're not going to get mass adoption. I always tell people like this: you're not going to get to mass adoption without mass marketing. I'm probably, I know I'm a lot older than you, and I remember before the internet. Like, I went through high school and college mostly before the internet. So understand, I'm an old man, but I was around when the internet. I grew up analog. I wasn't even just a kid. I was like, I didn't even get my first email address till I almost graduated from undergrad. So understand, I did. I grew up on card catalog. Literally, I'm almost 50. So it's like, I understand and watch that transition, and how the World Wide Web got adopted was because AOL sent out tens of millions of CDs with 3 minutes of software to get on live. That's where the internet, that's where the adoption of the World Wide Web came from. It didn't come from nerds at colleges. That is not where it came from. It became from mass adoption because of mass marketing from AOL. That's what got people interested, everyday people into, some of the bulletin boards that were easy to access, because they had bulletin boards and all these other things before, AOL came around. But it was a very weird command line niche kind of thing back then.
Right.
Where grandma started getting into email and World Wide Web was AOL. And you have to think about how that came into being. One, you have to have a project, you have to solve a problem, and you have to be able to market that solution to the problem. So I think a lot of the user interface stuff and onboarding and on ramping into cryptos is really hard. And even with our TUS project, we know we have a long way to go, but I can tell you that is one of our biggest focuses on how to get people into TUS as easy as possible. And we're looking, and for us, it's got to be as easy as Venmo. I mean, that's our goal. It's got to be as easy as Venmo and just as simple, if we think we're going to get to that point. But in the United States right now, there are industries that do have a recognized problem with normal banking and payment processing. And if you want to get people involved in adopting crypto now and go through all the learning curves and hurdles and the clunkiness and kludginess of what it takes to use crypto now, you got to focus on people that crypto still solves a problem that's bigger than the pain your solution is going to be for them. And that you have to go after those people and focus, your solution and market that solution to that group of people. And I think it really is simple. And so far, that's kind of the track we're following with our TUS project.
So I guess, in your opinion right now, what's the easiest place realistically to get people on board? Like, obviously, like here in the US, it's a little difficult to like pitch crypto and the idea of crypto. Where a lot of people have been flocking to, Asia, Africa. Where's your ideal spot?
As far as, I guess, could you repeat that question? Where, as far as what?
As far as I guess getting like better community building and implementing cryptocurrencies into economies, where would be like the ideal spot in your opinion right now?
From a regulatory standpoint?
Yeah, well, regulatory, people, I guess being more accepting, like, certain places, they understand cryptos and different currencies and different world currencies a lot better than others. Like people from Venezuela are much more susceptible to changing to other types of money, versus people here in the U.S. So it's a little bit of a loaded question, I know, but.
Well, I would say, so I lived in Europe when I was younger, and that when the World Wide Web was just coming into being. And what you found, especially
what part
even
of Europe,
in West,
if you don't mind me asking?
I lived in Ireland for a while.
Okay,
and then
Ireland.
Later,
okay.
and later on, I worked for a Swiss and a Japanese company at different points. So I've been all over. And so what I can tell you is that this is the 90s, okay, probably when you were like elementary school. And
well, it depends I don't think I was in elementary school in the 90s yet. I'm pretty young. I think it was in the 2000s. I'm a 90s
never
baby.
mind. So back in the day, when we rode our dinosaurs to, the internet cafe. So what you see is like places that didn't have the infrastructure for internet. So back when I worked at an internet cafe, because I was a student and I was going to college in Ireland, and I had already had a little bit of exposure to the world. I was already building web pages back then. And so I got a job working at this internet cafe in Ireland. And it was interesting because they also had a mobile phone shop. And what I noticed is that mobile phones got adopted much earlier in Europe and Asia. And why that is because the infrastructure for telecom and things like that were so archaic, and it was so expensive to upgrade all those basically landlines, is that it was actually cheaper just to drop in mobile phone towers and basically leapfrog that technology. And it's interesting. So you literally have probably even today in parts of Asia and Africa and definitely in Europe, higher, for instance, cell phone penetration than you do in the United States. Now I know
Okay.
I mean, cell phones are becoming, they're pretty ubiquitous everywhere. Mobile devices, let's just say mobile devices. But if you look at the adoption of those in places where they could leapfrog the technology because they had other barriers to that adoption. In other words, in Ireland, it was like $100,000 a mile to lay like a T1 line back in the day. So, I mean, there was just these crazy costs involved with that. And so they had an advantage. And so adoption of mobile devices is actually, you look at WeChat usage and things like that in China. Part of the reason why that is because they went to mobile devices before the United States did, and they went deeper than we did, very much quicker. So I think you're going to see that as well with money. So, and now if you take the instance of digital cash and currency, we don't have a physical barrier to that in the United States. We have a regulatory one more than anything. They make it very hard, to be honest, to launch a cryptocurrency in the United States and the way. And I think, and a lot of people don't even think this, but I do because I talk to retailers. I believe the biggest barrier to adoption for retailers will be how the IRS treats the taxation of crypto. And since most people aren't actually doing
Okay.
sales, so because I'm out there, it's not volatility. I'll tell you, it is not volatility. That's the thing that developers say for the justification to make stable coins, but those are the same developers that have never actually talked to an end user that say this, because I'm talking to end users all the time, and volatility is an easy problem to solve. It's the IRS that's a complicated part because of the way taxes are treated for
I
this.
see.
So what I think, and we all got opinions, but I'm out there I'm out in the street talking to customers, because that's what I do. I do sales and marketing. But I can tell you, I think
You
places
do
like,
sales, you do marketing, you got a liquor store, you like guns, you got a little bit of
I had
everything,
a liquor
Rob.
store. I had a liquor store. I
You
flipped
had
it,
one.
sold it. We owned it for a
Oh,
year.
did you?
It was just an investment property. We bought it. It was a
Okay.
closed. We bought a closed store, renovated it, built it back up, and then sold it. So it was just an investment that I did for a year. So
Okay.
I
Cool,
got a
cool,
lot of
cool.
those weird little things in my life that I've tried. I try lots of different things, and I'm an opportunist. So I see an opportunity, I look at it. Business is business. But what I see as far as adoption of crypto, to answer your question, where do I think the best places to go are going to be? There's going to be probably Africa and Asia. It's interesting. We're getting Tusk on the Excointial exchange, and which is kind of part with the Africunia Bank. It's Nigeria based. They're in Lagos. And I had a couple big meetings down there, and I'm involved with some of the blockchain groups in Nigeria, of all places. One of our developers is actually Nigeria native. I don't know if you know that, but one of our devs is actually originally from Nigeria.
Oh,
And,
cool.
and so, but we started looking at just like everything else. It's like we're looking at other markets because Tusk is a global project. We're not just a US project. And it's interesting. They have more opportunity to grow and do things in the financial sector in Nigeria than I think we do in the United States. There's far fewer barriers to entry on the regulatory side. And you have a lot more people that are open-minded. The thing is, it goes back to the mobile device thing I was telling you about. A lot of people in Africa don't have landline phones. They don't even have them, and they don't have high speed landline based connections for internet either. But they have tremendous amount of Wi-Fi and a tremendous amount of mobile phone and mobile device usages down there. And I think they're going to leapfrog on the money side with crypto, the United States. I think it'll be places you don't expect, like in Nigeria and like some of the really, really poor countries in Asia. I think you're going to see that probably be the future. And it's sad because the United States, we should be innovating and kicking ass globally in the sector. But what you see here is we don't have the political will to do that because there's too much entrenched legacy financial control of our political system in the United States, and they're just not going to let it go without a fight.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't expect it to here. I found it interesting, actually. I found out in Africa that because they don't trust the government currency there, they were trading phone minutes. They still do. And that's like their currency. So, I do agree with you where they are going to leapfrog. Same thing with technology and like infrastructure. Of course, they're not going to go, back to a Nokia and then start having smartphones. They didn't have the internet infrastructure. They're going to go straight to internet. So they're kind of just going to join 21st century society without having to go through the 90s and so on and so forth. So I don't know. I understand. It's just because those societies, they aren't used to having, I think, certain things. Like they don't have the luxury that we do here in the US or in the UK, other first world countries, even though Asia is a first world country, but they're more, technologically inclined than us. So I don't know,
Well, it depends.
interesting thoughts.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
you,
it
you
depends.
you can look at Vietnam and Cambodia and Indonesia and places like that. Those are definitely not first world countries at all. I mean, the standard of
Right.
living is so far
Mostly
below
China.
what we.
China's mostly the first world and like Japan, but others are developing. You're right.
And so I would say is that they have different problems over there that crypto can solve than we do. So you look at the United States. I mean, look at all the third-party payment options. Vend, Square, Stripe, PayPal, all these different. We have tons of options, right? Out there right now in the United States. And this is part of the problem with crypto adoption here is that we don't have a problem with payments here. And I think you go to some of those third world countries, not only do you have countries that have more recognized problems with like inflation and things like that, like where, Zimbabwe and Argentina and Venezuela. But you also have the fact that even in the healthier economies like Uruguay, Paraguay, down Central and South America, you still might have to wait, or even Peru, you might still have to wait 8 hours. And even Mexico, you might have to wait 8 hours to cash a check in some of those places, just because banking
Wow.
is so pitifully slow.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of crime associated with people in the banking. If Mexico, I one of my friends who's a very excellent entrepreneur, and she and I have been talking about ways that we could take crypto to Mexico. And safety is a huge problem, just for doing normal everyday banking there. Like literally, if you take out a lot of money in cash, a teller will literally call their goons and they'll rob you down the block. And
Wow.
so she was so one of my, and this is stuff I learned because I talk to people all the time. How do they do this in this country? And does crypto solve? Because I'm always trying to figure out, how do we get adoption? Because adoption is something I've been really, really stoked about and trying to figure out for, 2 years now. And so I say, okay, well, how do you solve that security problem? So she's like, well, this is what we do. My mom and I will, this is what she told me she would do. And she's like an American, but she goes down to Mexico. My mom and I would go into the bank together. My mom would take out the money, and then we'd go to the bathroom together. And then I would take the money from her, and then we walk out at different times, because the person who takes the money out from the teller was the one that they'll get the description to the robbers, essentially. And I'm like, that's the nonsense they have to deal with, like in Mexico. So crypto solves those problems. You don't have to go to the bank as much. You don't, and then the times of going to the bank. So down there in another, I'm assuming it's the same in some of those other developing countries, you're going to have the same kind of crime like that. Crypto solves different problems for them down there. And so it just depends on where you go, how you're going to close that last mile of crypto adoption.
Very interesting. Yeah, lots of things to take into consideration, lots of things to think about. Yeah. You gave me a few things to think about, honestly. Like there's, I guess, a lot of options we have, but really there's few that we need to come up to, I guess, come up with those actual solutions. So I don't know. I've enjoyed our conversation, Rob. So real quick, where can people find you? Tell me what, just like the latest things that you've been working on with Tusk real quick. Give me a little rundown with that.
Well, man, I wish we should push this back a week because we got some major announcements. I will tell you this. We have some celebrity athletes that are joining our project, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
active. And I'll say this, they're active NFL players, and they're in training camp right now. And we're waiting on paperwork right now. And
Wow,
so
someone's a big shot. Okay.
not yet, but these guys are amazing. And as you know, we're kind of focused on the gun industry in the United States as the first market we're approaching. These guys are both gun guys, and they're passionate about what we're doing. And so that was a deal we've been working on for some time. We got 3 more exchanges coming on. So we're excited. A lot of stuff's happening. A lot of things that we've been working on partnership wise. And sometimes these things take a year and a half to land. We got a bunch of things that are going to be landing here in the next couple of months. So we're super, super stoked on what we're doing right now with Tusk. You want to learn more about Tusk, you can just go to tusk.network. TUSC.network is the best place. And then you can find me, just Rob McNealy, type it in. I'm kind of everywhere, just at Rob McNealy.
Awesome, Rob. I'm so happy you joined us. Super great news. I can't wait to hear more about those NFL players. It's kind of funny because, you know, the NFL, I don't know, did the NFL do the bubble? Or are they doing like the basketball players where they're trying to keep their players sectioned off? Yeah, they're doing it too.
Yeah, so I had a meet. So I actually had a Zoom meeting with these. There's 2 players coming on, and all I'll say is they're brothers. You can figure it out from there. And I'm not going to say which team, though. It's an
no, I have to do some Googling now.
it's not very often that brothers play on the same team. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
And so, I'm so excited. You don't understand how excited I am with these guys because they're really, really awesome. But yeah, they're doing the bubble. So they're doing training and like on shifts. So there's like a morning shift and afternoon shift. So they're keeping like the team half and half. So they're kind of keeping them kind of bubbled out, and they're kind of doing, you know, alternating schedules and stuff. So they're not all bunched up at once. And they're essentially locked in, you know, their training camp right now. So they're just kind of like bored out of their minds because they're not supposed to go anywhere, right? So they're kind of like grounded. But, you know, it'll be interesting to watch what happens with the sports this year. But I think in general, regardless of the COVID, I do think there's gonna be a lot of things going on with COVID. I'm super bullish on what we're doing. I'm real excited about where we are with our project and where crypto's going in general.
Yeah, everything's been doing great lately. So I'm super bullish on just about anything right now that has to do with cryptocurrency. But awesome talking to you. I'm so glad you got to join us today on today's stream. You know, guys, again, you can find Rob McNealy, type him in on Google. He shows up everywhere. Tusk.network is where you can find him. Make sure to check out all our Crypto Mondays videos. We are always in alt space if you ever want to join us in alt space for Crypto Mondays. I decided to try this new thing. I don't know if you guys like it or not, where even if my guest can't join me physically in VR, I am still in VR. I thought that was a cool thing. I thought about it the other day because I was like, let me set up my camera. And I'm like, nah, let me do this instead. So I tried it out and it works pretty good. Did it work pretty good, Rob? Did you hear me fine?
I heard you fine. Looks great.
All right, cool. I don't know. I might just start doing this more often. But anyways, we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. You guys take care. Rob, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in and watching this video. If you like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave your comment down below. Follow us on social media. Make sure to subscribe to get notifications when this channel posts more videos.